Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Bruce, what's going on, man? How are you?
Well, gonna get full of turkey is how I am.
Well, it is a Thanksgiving Day tradition around here for us to talk a little wrestling, for us to talk a little Survivor Series. And of course, today is no different. Survivor Series 2005 is our topic. Normally we do a watch along, but well, ain't nobody got time for that. So today we're just going to cover Survivor Series 2005, different time, different place. We'll get back to the watch alongs, but probably no surprise today that, we don't have the ability to do that. What we do have the ability to do though, is pay homage and respect to a very important figure in wrestling history who maybe has not gotten his just due. One of the guys who really helped popularize wrestling on the internet. And he was very important in the history of WCW and ECW and of course Impact. And along the way, you became great pals with Bob Ryder, who we lost earlier this week. And I was actually in the middle of recording with Eric Bischoff when I got your text. I wasn't monitoring the news or anything like that, but I read your text and Eric was overwhelmed because Bob was a very important player behind the scenes. And you guys had a chance to get to know Bob, and maybe he was misunderstood at times and certainly, could be controversial at other times, but at the heart of it, what everybody had in common to say about Bob was what a great guy he was and what a sweet man he was. And that he always came from a good place and always had everybody else's best interests in mind. You really never heard anybody have long-term quote unquote heat with a guy like Bob Ryder. And that tells you in wrestling how special and unique he was, right, Bruce?
Bob was a good guy, and I was really saddened with the news. I guess we found out, I was on the phone with someone this morning, Chris Park, who was a dear friend of Bob Ryder's, and Chris had just found out and let me know. Bob's been battling cancer now for just about 10 years and was putting up the good fight. And unfortunately, Bob was, I guess he lost that fight, man. Nobody, look, we just found out, and I'm just saddened by the loss. And I hope that, that the good things and all of the positive things that Bob has done for so many in this business lives on. As you say, he was a pioneer. He was a guy that was, doing the internet stuff when we didn't know what the hell the internet was. And he was always very, very good to me and a very good man. And as you say, he always came from a very good place, and he will be sorely missed in this industry and sorely missed by those of us who called him friend.
Really a heck of a guy, gone way too soon in a real long battle with cancer. And finally he's now at peace. And I guess that's the only bright spot in all of this is, he can finally rest easy. No more crazy, battles with cancer, chemo, and all the other unpleasantries that come along with that. Well, I don't know how to sort of transition to Survivor Series here, Bruce, but, let's jump to it. Survivor Series 2005 was the 19th such yearly event. It went down on November 27th, 2005. So as you're listening to this today, it was 15 years ago today from the Joe Louis Arena right there in Detroit, Michigan. The attendance is reported to be 15,000 folks. This is actually the third event held at the Joe Louis Arena for carrying the Survivor Series banner. The others were 1991 and 1999. Of course, famously in 1999, that's when we hit that motherfucker with a car, said motherfucker being Stone Cold Steve Austin. And in 1991, Undertaker dropped a motherfucker on his head. Motherfucker never actually touched his head to the mat, was Hulk Hogan. Lots of important Survivor Series over the years at this arena, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, shit, if you're going to celebrate Thanksgiving Eve, why the fuck wouldn't you want to do it in Detroit?
Well, crime. Bruce muted himself, but he's looking at me.
How about now? Fucking with me. How about now?
What are you doing? What, it was working fine. Why are you tinkering with shit?
It was working fine, then I couldn't hear you, and then I touched it, then everything started fucking up.
I cannot wait until we start recording the video so everyone can see you try to work electronic equipment.
This is bullshit.
Welcome back to the show, Bruce.
Hey, here's the thing, man. So yesterday, and I'm going to the fucking eye gimmick to get my just simple shit.
The optometrist. Let me translate for our listeners. You going to the optometrist?
That guy.
Yeah.
I don't think, but it was a chick. I don't think that was her name. But anyway, the guy hands me an iPad and says, "How are you with electronics?" Well, my wife was with me, so she just kind of laughs to herself.
Sure. And
they give this thing to me. He goes, "Okay." And then down here, when you finish this page, there's a tab down at the bottom, and you hit the fucking tab, and then this other fucking page comes up, and you do this. But I touched it, and shit wasn't working. And the guy had to come down and sit across from me, and they're, fuck me in electronics. Fuck you, goddamn microphone motherfucker.
By the way, he sounded just like Jim Ross. The other day, he was like, technology doesn't get along.
I sound like a lot of things.
He said, copy this, drag that, paste there. Fuck you. And I'm like,
okay,
boy,
I can relate to that.
Yeah, that's the most Bruce Prichard thing you may have ever said, Mr. Ross.
Well, fuck them. Seriously. What is wrong with the goddamn piece of paper and a fucking pen? You fill the shit out. Here, you want to put it in your little fancy goddamn machine, and you type the shit out. Didn't even have a keyboard with it. He wanted me to type it on screen and shit. And then when you mash the Fernum Snavets, you put your finger on the thing there, like, check this, and and it wouldn't do nothing.
Let's just run through this. Do you realize at this point, you're so far in the wrestling bubble that you don't even know how to communicate as a human anymore?
That's not true.
He did the deal with my gimmick, and I put him over, and then he furnamed my Schnavitz, and like, no one knows what the fuck you're saying anymore.
I know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
I do. And the listeners know.
Exactly. They know. And thank you for knowing, but it's fucking frustrating. Now I had two spectrums because I went to the dentist earlier in the morning and got greeted by fucking basically walking death. I don't know how this woman was, but anyway, and she wanted to touch my teeth with a sharp pointy thing.
She had a sharp gimmick.
Oh, hell no. And then I go to the optometrist, and this was to be eye friendly, and they give me shit I can barely read that I got to touch, and it wasn't working.
Can I ask a question?
Well, that's what you do. Bruce, chat me up about what? That's a shout out to Ed Koski, but go ahead.
Oh, Ed rips my shit off.
Oh, Ed constantly, whenever he wants to fucking bust my balls. Hey, Bruce, chat me up.
Well, fuck you, Ed.
Yeah, fuck you, Ed.
What about Vince McMahon? Does he go to the dentist? I can't imagine a scenario with Mr. There is no sick, has everything his way, is going to go to the dentist, sit in the lobby, fill out paperwork, open his mouth, lean back in a prone position, let people put their fingers in his mouth. Everything about this, I never thought of this until just now. I can't imagine what that must be like. Vince McMahon going to the dentist.
Well, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he gets his teethuses cleaned and shit. And
can you just go
sure
one
happens.
day? Can you go with him one day and just film it just for personal reasons?
How the fuck do you think we came up with Isaac Yankem?
You went to the dentist with him? I thought that was just Bobby Heenan's joke.
No, but it stemmed from, okay, it's twofold. All right. We went to the same dentist and I went and we like happened to have at the same time. And I wanted to go in while he was in there and shit and pretend like I was a dentist. And those motherfuckers don't have much of a sense of humor when it comes to that shit.
They do not.
Yeah. It's just let me pretend to do some malpractice here. No, man, that would be bad. I'm like, well, he'll think it's funny. But they got no sense of humor. So yeah, I've actually been there when he's been like gone in to get his teethuses cleaned.
That's shit. Just amazing to me. The idea that this guy,
that he has clean teeth.
No, that he's willing to, he's created his own universe now where things happen the way he wants all the time. And there it's a little, you're doing what they want.
So in your brain, in your mind, he's got like a fucking, doctor's exam room and office right off of his office and his own dental chair and shit right in there that they just miraculously do this and in this world of
I assume that people come to him. Like I can't imagine him just strolling ass through a Whole Foods looking for the 2% milk.
How the fuck else is he going to get his 2% milk?
People are going to deliver it for him. They're going to have it stocked for him. He's got someone for that. I imagine someone comes to his house and cuts his hair. So I also imagine that, someone comes to his house and gives him a massage or does his nails or whatever else. I don't see him going to.
You have people come to your house and cut your hair.
That's true.
Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. If I got it going on like that, why didn't he have it going on like that? You can be more efficient if you can work while you're getting a haircut.
I don't give a fuck about his goddamn hygienic practices.
I don't either, but you used to go with him to book the shits when he went to get a haircut. And I was like, that's one thing, but going to sit there with your mouth wide open
where else you going to do that?
I don't know.
I was saying, and I was going to make the joke that actually wasn't a joke. While he doesn't have a dentist's office attached to it, we do have like our own little emergency clinic in the office. Well, most big offices do.
Then why is it that crazy when he's got all this other shit? He's got a gym at the office. He's got an emergency medical facility at the office. He can't get his fucking teeth cleaned at the office.
Well, nah, that's a little fucking extreme, don't you think?
You're probably right. How about we talk about our show? Survivor Series.
That's what we've been doing, isn't it?
2005. The tagline for the event was the beginning of the end. The poster for the show features a smoky scene with a light behind a shadowy figure, that of the Undertaker. There's 6 matches on the card. 2 are billed as main events. From a buy rate perspective, it does good numbers compared to the year before. Here in 2005, we do 400,000 buys for this show compared to 325,000 buys the year before. Of the big 4 that year, of course, it performed the worst, but that's almost always the case. 575,000 people got the Royal Rumble. 980,000 people got WrestleMania. 650,000 people got SummerSlam, and 400,000 bought tonight's show, the Survivor Series. Why do you think that is? Why is the Survivor Series, even though it was the second pay-per-view extravaganza created, WrestleMania being number 1, this feels like based on heritage and longevity, it would have been the second biggest, but that's not the case. It's way down the line. Why is that? Is just the concept, the time of year? What say you?
A little bit of everything. I think that the concept in some regard made it less than or just feeling like it wasn't as must see. But then again, to me, I thought that the concept was something that was unique that people would want to see. In addition to that time of year and the holidays and coming in while it wasn't the day before or anything like that, it certainly was the weekend before. And it was certainly something that it's during a time people are watching their money because they've got Christmas and Thanksgiving and everything else coming up.
Let's talk about some news and notes as we head into the show. MSNBC's Rita Cosby is going to be hosting 2 editions of Live and Direct from Afghanistan, along with WWE performers. She was running a blog on their website talking about the trip, and she put it over pretty big. And she was thankful, or she wrote that the Afghans told her how thankful they were that Americans liberated their country and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of cool to see when there's so much negative news around the WWE. It feels like whenever the mainstream covers WWE, it's usually got some sort of tinge of negativity to it, but a positive piece from MSNBC and covering, the commitment to, going overseas and supporting the troops. This is good PR.
Well, yeah, it is, because this was during a time, when you're talking about tribute to the troops and everything that we do for our armed forces. And I still believe in that. And I still think that that is something that Americans don't do enough of, is to thank the men and women who sacrifice and give their time to make sure that we can enjoy the freedoms that we have to do a podcast like this and to do everything else and have free thinking and all of the good shit that we have in America is in many ways due from the folks that are over there risking their lives. So yeah, it's something that WWE definitely believed in, and the talent definitely believed in. You look at guys like John Cena and John Layfield, 2 of the biggest proponents of tribute to the troops. There would be no tribute to the troops if it were not for John Layfield. It was his idea, and it was something that he got started. And so it's often overlooked, I think, the good that we do, because most people like to dwell on the negative. So what's your next question?
Ken Kennedy is going to be out for 6 months, tearing muscles in his back and shoulders. Batista suffered the same injury, but we're told that Kennedy's injury was more severe. The tendon separated from the bone in his back, and Kennedy's going to wait 3 months before rehabbing. He would tell WWE.com, it's kind of similar to what Triple H did to his quad. I had torn it completely off the bone, and the doctor said I needed surgery, that it couldn't be rehabbed. And he felt it tear during the European tour. He said he had a bruise and some swelling, but both went away. And then he wrestled Kid Cash at a SmackDown taping in Cincinnati, and the swelling returned. He's hopeful that he would be able to continue to contribute to SmackDown in a non-wrestling role. Of course, in our previous months, we talked about how big of an impact Ken Kennedy had since his debut. He came in, has some wins over some big names, and then this happens. When a guy comes in and has the quote unquote rocket ship strapped to him, and then he's injured, does he start to get the injury prone tag right away? Or was that not yet the case here?
Well, anybody can be injured at any given time. And the first time that someone comes in and they're injured, unfortunately, that's an evil of what it is that we do and the physicality of the job in and of itself. So when you look back with 2020 vision, then you say, well, hell, that may have been the first sign, but I don't think that anybody at that point was looking at Ken and going, oh God, he's injured his back. He's injury prone. It was after a while when they seem to pile up, that's kind of when you start wondering how their bodies are going to hold up.
Let's talk about something else that's making the news and notes. On December 10th in Osaka, Japan, Brock Lesnar defeats New Japan's top tough guy, Nakanishi, in 4 minutes and 27 seconds in the main event. Will you stop? The semifinals saw Riki Choshu and Tanahashi and Nagata beat Goto, Tenzan, and Chono in 12:54. I'm bringing this up because Lesnar is wrestling here in defiance of the WWE's legal threats that he's breaking a no compete clause that he voluntarily signed about 20 months prior to this. It was a condition of his release from his WWE contract. And Meltzer, the Torch would say WWE is attempting to put a restraining order on his participation in future matches. WWE believes it is wrong that they came to a mutual agreement with Lesnar in 2003 so that he could leave the company to pursue his NFL dreams as long as he didn't go work for another pro wrestling promotion worldwide until his contract would have expired. And now he's wrestling elsewhere. Listen, typically I always sort of side with the boys on a topic like this, but in this particular case, you guys let him out and said, "Hey, you can go do whatever you want. Just don't go do this." And then he went and tried to do that. I see how you have an issue with this.
Yeah, because again, we made the investment in training him initially and getting him to the popularity that he was at. Brock was unhappy, wanted to do other things. That's fine. You can try other things. However, we had made the investment in him in the sports entertainment category and wanted to protect that. So just strictly business.
In hindsight, do you think there was anything that could have been done? I mean, obviously there's been a rocky past or relationship with Vince and Brock over the years, sort of lots of stops and starts. Do you think that something could have changed here, or at this point, was it just too far gone?
I don't know that it was too far gone or not. I just think that it was something that Brock wanted to do. And, there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into it as far as I know. And thank God I wasn't heavily involved in any of that at the time. So it was, but from a business standpoint, yeah, we had put a lot into Brock and wanted to protect that investment.
Let's talk about the show itself. As a reminder, we're covering the Torch here this week instead of the Observer. Wade would say that the first match got
not much better, but I actually don't mind Wade as much, just as much.
Well, don't be
Wade came up and introduced himself and said hello at StarCast, in that very first StarCast that we had.
Well, at Wale Mania back in the day, you posed for pictures with Dave Meltzer. So it's not like you guys have always been heated rivals.
Yeah, he also ran from me like a little girl.
Why are you doing this?
Because you brought up that I posed with him, but when I walked in, he ran to the other side of the room.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true. You weren't there.
I was there.
You weren't there when I walked into the building.
Oh, no, I wasn't there at that moment.
And he ran like a little girl. And then they had to tell him that you were coming up on stage. And then they brought me up on stage because he didn't want me up on stage.
And then just to be a dick in the back, when he was being interviewed, you did a run in.
You goddamn right I did.
What's wrong with you?
And I hugged him on stage because he didn't want to be on stage with me. And I knew it. And can you remind me and refresh my memory? Because there was a chant that the audience at Wale Mania chanted when Dave Meltzer was introduced.
5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars,
No.
5 stars.
Fuck Dave Meltzer. Fuck Dave Meltzer. Fuck Dave Meltzer.
Why are you doing? But it was it's like a Kurt Angle, you suck thing. It's a gimmick. It's a routine.
No, it's not a gimmick. It was a feeling.
Why are you being like this? It's the holidays. Will you be nice?
I have been nice.
Can we talk about the show?
Nice.
Can we talk about the show?
Well, we were. I was making comment. I do commentary on commental shit.
Chris Benoit, Booker T, best of 7 series. This is match number 1. Sharmell is with Booker T. Of course, these guys had a best of 7 series in WCW, and this is for the U.S. title. Wade would say they paced themselves for a lengthy match, settling into submission holds at 5 minutes. They eventually really get going. He's going to signal for the top rope headbutt. Sharmell's going to jump onto the apron and yell at Benoit. Benoit decides to yell back, giving Booker time to catch him on the top rope. Benoit punches it out and then headbutts Booker to the mat. He goes for the headbutt, but Booker rolls out of the way, and the crowd is really into it at this point. Booker then uses an Oklahoma roll to pin Benoit, and Sharmell is going to hold Benoit's leg to prevent the kick out. 3 stars. And Wade would say nothing we haven't seen before, but well executed with decent pacing. These two guys, especially in this era, were big pals of yours. I'm sure you really enjoyed this one.
Loved it. And this was something that both Benoit and Booker pitched. that they wanted to work with one another and thought that the best of 7 series they had in WCW was good and wanted to repeat it. So let's go for it, and had confidence in both talents to be able to not disappoint. And I don't think that they disappointed in one single match that they had.
Let's talk about the next match here on the show. I guess before we do though, let me ask, when did you realize Sharmell was going to be such a good fit for Booker T? Because that's not always the case when you have somebody, you know, as a newfound part of an act. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It sometimes complicates things when there's a real life relationship outside of the ring. What did you think?
Let me educate you on Miss Sharmell Huffman. Sharmell was one of the Nitro girls, and she had done some valet work or things like that in WCW. But when, you know, we purchased WCW and what have you, and Sharmell wasn't doing anything, Sharmell would call me practically every single week. And every single week I'd tell Sharmell, hey, Sharmell, I don't have anything for you right now, but again, this is not a no, it's just a not now. And keep in touch with me, something will come up. And I'll be damned if something didn't come up. And it was Sharmell's persistence and her positive attitude that got her in the position to say, well, why don't we try this with Book? And they had a relationship. It was gold. There was obviously natural chemistry there. So you felt that. And Sharmell is just a natural reactor, I guess is the best way to say it. I'm not going to call her an actress, even though she is a damn good actress, but she was able to react beautifully, and the chemistry between her and Booker, you could feel. It was a natural. It was just an absolute natural, but it all just speaks to the persistence and the never quit attitude of Sharmell.
A testament to her for sure. Did Booker like the idea of turning heel and his wife being sort of the catalyst for it?
Yes. But Booker, much like someone else I know, is a natural heel and embraced being a heel and just being able to get into that confident, arrogant portrayal of himself. So yes, Booker was a natural.
You said someone else, you know, I mean, you're a heel. A natural.
Yeah,
heel.
I'm a heel.
So
I know me.
What, who are you referring to?
I was referring to myself.
Hmm.
And if you got a mirror there, check it out.
Oh, I'm a heel too.
Oh, you're a heel.
Really?
You're an ultimate heel.
Well, I'm working baby.
Don't look at me like that. Really?
I'm just saying
Unless you're looking in a mirror right now, pal, then yeah.
No. I may be a heel.
Looking at your monitor, yeah, you be looking at a heel. But if you got like that little box like I do up in the corner where you can see yourself, you might got 2 heels there.
So you're saying now, how in the world do you think I'm a heel? Because I got the internet fooled. They're thinking I'm working babyface, and you're saying, nay, I'm a heel.
Yeah. Well, if anybody thinks you're a babyface, they'd be fooled then.
Really?
Really?
What have I done heelish?
Oh my God. First time I ever met you and walked into your house, you told me, oh, hey, make sure that you do this, do that. And just,
instigating shit. Yeah.
Yeah. You're an instigating heel.
Okay. That's true. All right. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I'll take it.
By the way, the story is, Bruce came to visit, and it just so happened Alabama was playing Texas A&M, and I had a whole home theater area full of Roll Tide Alabama fans. And so Bruce and I are in the downstairs den right by it. And,
it's got like stadium seating. It's got about about 13 rows, about 12 seats on each row.
Anyway, you are not a football fan really, but I made sure to put a bug in your ear that if you started cheering for the other team, Texas A&M, and since you were from Texas, it could be believable that it would really liven up our little get together. And you did. And you took the quote unquote Iggy really well, and were the most hated man when everyone went home that day. Even though Alabama won and your team technically lost, they were still mad at you when they left. So it was a win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just the way I wanted it.
Worked out.
Yeah.
In hindsight, Lord, I hate to break it down like this. In hindsight, would it have been a good call to have Benoit go over in this first match, given the, how the relationship he had with Eddie Guerrero and that fans at home knew that? Do you think it would have been like another little feel good moment for one of Eddie's pals? Because you guys were doing that pretty regularly. Like whenever Chavo would come out, he'd be wearing the armbands and the fans would be chanting. And I feel like Benoit may have been in a similar spot, but we decided to go another way.
Again, at some point, you've got to get back on point with your stories, right. And we needed to move and get back on point.
Well, let's talk about one of our more controversial moments in the history of pay-per-view. It's up next. Eric Bischoff is promising Vince McMahon backstage that Raw would decimate SmackDown. He said he planned to screw John Cena just as McMahon screwed Bret Hart. And, as Bischoff chanted, "You screwed Cena," Cena walked in and he said, "So Eric Bischoff screws guys? Not really my thing." And then McMahon asked Cena, "What's good in the hood?" And then said, "Keep it up, my blank." And then strutted away like George Jefferson. And then we see Booker and Sharmell, and Booker says, "Tell me he didn't just say that." And I can't believe this actually happened. And if I'm honest with you, I kind of forgot that it was even on this show until I started doing my research. But here we are, 15 years away from maybe one of the more controversial things that Vince ever did on pay-per-view. But, context is king, I suppose. Chat me up. Just a minute.
I don't think it holds up well.
No shit. Doesn't age well. At the time you're doing different things that we would never do now. Eric Bischoff and I just watched the episode where he was fired, and they showed a clip of Mae Young giving him a stink face. And then they came back to her in the courtroom scene, and she's on the witness stand, and she's got her middle and forefinger spread, and she's flipping her tongue around in between them. It's like, you could never do that in 2020. Like that would never in a million years happen. But hey, that was pop culture in 2005. But my goodness, if you had this one back, you probably wish you had this one to do over, huh?
Probably so.
Obviously this is something that is, a sensitive topic these days. Do you remember this being something that you had to sort of go run past a lot of folks backstage? Would this have been something that you would have gotten the green light for?
Well, I think that there were people whose opinions were asked, and, again, it's just a different time and a different place where you did different things that were not things that hold up. When I go back and I'm into the Alfred Hitchcock hour now, taping it every single night, you sit there and you watch some of the things of, on television of men just basically, slapping the shit out of women, back and forth as if it was just another day at the office. And it's just, time has a way of making things cringeworthy.
Do you remember, Booker or Sharmell having a reaction to this, or they understand, hey, it's entertainment. We're trying something, might work, might not.
Again, it's just different time, different place, different mentality.
I know this sounds silly, but Vince is somebody we've always believed to be disconnected from pop culture. This is someone who you've sort of joked before in the past would say, "What about Steinfeld?" instead of Seinfeld, because he was just, that's not in his wheelhouse. And there's even been jokes about him listening to certain types of music on the show and things like that. I'm saying all that to ask, does someone have to coach him up on the proper way to say the word? I know that sounds silly, but in hip hop, they use an A, and not so pleasant ways. People use the hard R, and it's almost become a big joke. I'm sure someone comes to Vince and has the idea, hey, wouldn't it be hilarious if he did this or he said that? And then they have to make sure he understands that there are intricacies in how the context of
He's not a child. He's a grown ass man. And you know, it's again, dude, it's different time, different place.
no arguing that. This is just, if you watch this without the context of who John Cena is and how silly WWE is, as you said, doesn't age well. Do you remember there ever being a different circumstance where he was trying to talk cool, like try to be hip, and just like a lot of our dads do, it just falls a little flat? Like, for instance, let me give you an example. I'm sure you've heard of, WAP this year. It was like the late summer anthem. I can't believe that was a hit song, but you're familiar with WAP, correct?
Yes.
So as crazy as it is that that's a song, my dad has no idea what that is or that it exists. Well, very recently we were watching football together, and an old friend of ours who we hadn't heard from in a long time texted my dad. And I just, as he's telling me, he's like, man, I hadn't heard from this guy in like 8 years. Can you believe it? This is so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you know, he's got like a catering business now. He said, what? I said, well, it's like a food truck deal. He's like, really? What's he sell? And I said, wings and pizza. And he said, really? I said, yeah. I said, you should tell him, you know, put him over, make him feel good. Say, hey man, I can't wait to get some of your WAP wings and pizza. That's his food truck. So my dad, not knowing any better, sent this guy, I can't wait to get some of your WAP. And our mutual friend texted it back and said, was this supposed to go to Miss Deborah? Because dad had no idea. And he's like, and he responded, he's like, don't be a stupid bitch. No, my wife doesn't make wings or pizza. Where would that even come from? And that's when my friend realized,
probably his, and he said, my son.
Wings and pizza. So have you ever seen Vince, you know, try to, hey, I'm cool, I'm hip, I know the things.
As much as me or you or anybody else. I mean,
I'm just hoping you can give me a lighthearted story so we can move off of him dropping the N-bomb and just have a good show.
I ain't got no lighthearted story.
Okay, cool. Trish Stratus wrestled Melina. It was for the women's title. This was a match, star and a half. It was described as usual good intensity from Trish and Melina. Of course, Trish has gone on to be a Hall of Famer. Melina is not. Maybe one day. Feels like, eventually every woman that was ever in WWE gets put in the Hall of Fame. What'd you think of this one? Watching it back for the first time in 15 years.
Well, it was a match. You know, I think sometimes that you had both women really wanted to be the best. I just don't know if Melina was at the place yet where she had the skill level, and Trish had been working for a while, and Melina was a little green here, and it showed.
There's a lot going on here. We've also got Mickey J is what we're calling her here before she's Mickey James. She's with Trish Stratus as the super fan of sorts, the second. But the other subplot or storyline going on here is Styles and Taz. Of course, in this era, we've just fired Jim Ross. Joey Styles is his replacement. He's the voice of Raw. Taz is one of the voices on SmackDown with Michael Cole. And they're doing commentary here together. And Taz says something like, I'd be happy not to have to work with you again. And Styles said, once every 10 years is fine. And Taz said he hasn't missed him. And Styles said, I'm done with him. Obviously, we've had a lot of fun talking about our pal Taz over the years. Did he have real life issues with Joey Styles, or is this all just part of a storyline building towards, you know, some crescendo with Raw versus SmackDown?
Yeah, it was the brand rivalry there. I don't know if there was ever any heat there one way or another. I'm sure Taz has had a lot of heat with a lot of people throughout the years. That, you know, Taz is one of those guys, very quiet, likes to keep to himself, and has been misunderstood.
Yes,
quite a bit throughout his career.
I would agree.
So, yeah, no, this was, to my knowledge, I think that Joey and Taz are friendly.
The next match, while not technically the main event, was one of the more major storylines heading into this show. It's a rivalry between Triple H and Ric Flair. Of course, they were a big part of Evolution. Flair was essentially Triple H's on-screen and perhaps at different times off-screen mentor. But in real life, whenever Rick would be battling some sort of confidence issues, Triple H was there to help him pull the nose up. But the feud really began at WWE Homecoming, where Triple H returned to TV after an absence that lasted 3 months. They've been together since 2002. They've been positioned in a tag match on that show. And after they win the match, Triple H would attack Flair with a sledgehammer. And as they moved forward, Triple H would explain that Flair was no longer the legend he was, and he needed to stop Flair. They met at a steel cage match in Taboo Tuesday, which Flair won, and a last man standing match has been made for them tonight. On the build to this show, we saw Flair cut one hellacious promo where he pulls the Band-Aid off his head, starts hitting himself in the forehead, talking about how he's dodged death over and over. And now he's got to look at this and it hurts, and he's pouring blood, going absolutely bananas. It's one of the better promos of his entire career, not just one of the best promos of the year, but ever. And what a memorable spectacle it was in this feud. Do you think this feud is sort of underrated in history? I don't think people talk about it or give it nearly enough credit.
I do. And I think that one of the best aspects of the rivalry was how personal it was, and just how much in real life, first of all, that the two have respect for each other. But in addition to respect, that there was a lot of just genuine love there. And it was something where Rick, the stalwart, and Rick, the legend, and Triple H being told, by Flair and by others, hey, you're the next guy. So it was a real life story that you were able to turn into storyline that I think everybody could feel. Everybody felt the jealousy, there were so many emotions in this that were right there. The jealousy of Triple H for the adjuration that Ric Flair had, the love of Ric Flair to see, the guy that idolized him, turn on him, the love of a father and a son and of two brothers and what have you. It just was emotional. It was heartfelt. And you take two of the best in the industry and put them together. It just had all the makings of classic.
It's really outstanding. Wade would ask, when was the last time Triple H was on a pay-per-view this early? I think that's a great idea. A great question. I mean, he's been a main eventer at this point for years and years and years. And if he wasn't at the tippy top, he wasn't third. But that shows you how stacked this roster is.
But also, again, I think that when people say that, I throw it out the window, because it doesn't matter where you are in the card as far as, oh, well, this match didn't mean much because it was on third. That's just horseshit logic. We opened up WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar one year. We've opened up, with main events, easily main events for the first match. It's a different philosophy in how you present the card. You can start with the biggest thing you've got sometimes to start off with a bang, and then leave everybody else, hey, follow that. It's position on the card as far as number means little to nothing.
Well, we've got a hell of a start here. Hunter's going to attack Flair on his way to the ring while he's still got his robe on. They're going to brawl at ringside for several minutes. They're going to grab a chair, a kendo stick. They're all over the place. And it's no surprise that this is a good match. This is going to go a long time. They get 26 minutes and 59 seconds. Ultimately, Hunter's going to grab a sledgehammer and hit Flair across the shoulder blades with it. This time the referee gets all the way to 10. Flair strapped to a back brace and helped out by the medics. And Wade gave it 4 stars. He would say, not a match of the year, but a very good dramatic blood fest with good internal logic, not entirely unpredictable and not particularly exciting, as it never got out of second gear. Although in a match like this, that's going to happen past the 5-minute mark with any credibility anyway, but it told a good story. And for him to be as critical as his recap is, you wouldn't think he would give it 4 stars. But I love this match, and maybe it's because I just like the story between the two. Maybe it's because I'm a Flair mark. But I just thought it was a great match. What'd you think?
I thought it was a great match too. And when you look at the story, it was all told there. Hindsight again, your takes change over time. And I thought it was too bloody. I thought there's too much gore. But that's my taste. And, 20, 30 years ago, probably would have thought different, but watching it back, it was too much.
To use a screwdriver here, is that too much?
Yeah. But again, it was different. It was something, it was a weapon to use that's different, but I do think that's too much as well.
There's a spot in the match where you get a great shot of Ric Flair doing his business with the razor blade. And over the years, there's been moments where guys like Captain Lou wouldn't even try to hide it, and it was blatant and they were just way out of line. In a case like this with Flair, is this him being in the wrong position, the director or the cameraman not communicating? Where does the blame belong for this?
Well, the blame, I don't know if there's blame. I just think that it's on everyone's part, not being able to do better in not shooting certain things and or doing it blatantly. But what has happened is that people that have no idea about the business think they know what's going on and expose different things that when you look back on, I know what he's doing and all this other shit. Most people watching that had no idea what the hell they were looking at. So when the critics and those that think they know talk about it, but again, from an artistic viewpoint, looking at it, it's like, too much.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I've always been of the impression that the idea is whenever something like that is going to happen, you create a distraction, not just for the live audience, but for the camera as well. Maybe somebody's hot dogging or whatever. It just feels like that's sort of paint by numbers, right?
Not necessarily. Again, it's being good at your craft and being able to take care of your business, and it shouldn't be an issue.
Let's talk about the next piece of business on the show. But before we do, how important do you think this feud was and this match was to Hunter and Rick? I mean, this is a mutual appreciation society, is it not? I mean, one of Hunter's role models as a wrestler, his inspiration as a wrestler, it's guys like Ric Flair and Harley Race. So when he gets to have a big, bloody last man standing pay-per-view style match with one of his heroes, that's got to be something he's fired up about.
Without a doubt, both of them were, and both talent had so much respect for the other talent in real life is why this entire rivalry made so much sense and still resonates today, because you felt all the real emotions that the two were feeling and everybody could relate to it.
Let's talk about the next thing. We've got the SmackDown team talking about needing a leader backstage. Batista said he would be the leader and checked to see if that was okay with everyone else on the team. Everyone said yes, but Orton at least hesitated for a few seconds before agreeing. These were fun segments. What did you think of these? Did you put these together?
It was fun. And the fun thing about it is again, when you base things in reality and you're able to tap in to how the talent themselves really feel. And there was a time that there was brand rivalry, and there were, talent that, bled blue for SmackDown and Raw bled red for Raw. So they competed internally, and even those on respected brands. Kind of felt, well, I should be the leader. I should be the guy that is pretty much setting the pace for everyone else to follow. So you feed off of that and turn it up a notch, and it writes itself.
Next up, we've got Edge and Lita walking to the ring. He says it's just him and a live mic, and that scares some people. And he's going to try to trash the Tigers and just Detroit in general. He's eventually going to start referring to Demetrius Young as Mark Henry. And it's an okay little segment here. You know, they're even having some fun at his expense, saying, hey, Edge, where's your world title? What do you think of this interaction with real life sports and Edge here?
It's always fun. And Detroit, for whatever reason, a lot of guys lived in Detroit, man. I remember Ted Nugent showing up, George Thorogood, Hitman Hearns, Thomas Hearns, and the Red Wings. Pat Patterson loved the hockey players, as he would say. He wouldn't say hockey. It would be, the hockey players are here. The Red Wing. And so it's funny that I never realized just how many huge stars lived in Detroit. Not a knock, Detroit. It's just that the stars that did live there were your hometown boys, often came out to support the cause. So there was often a lot of talent to work with and a lot of material there.
We've got one of the big feuds happening next. It's John Cena and Kurt Angle for the WWE World Heavyweight title. Two of the top stars, two of the top performers. The rivalry began back in August when Bischoff chose Angle as the number one contender for the WWE Championship after Cena defeated Chris Jericho in a You're Fired match to retain the belt. And Angle failed to win the title at Unforgiven, and the two squared off at Taboo Tuesday, a triple threat match with John Cena. Once again, Cena retains. On November 7th on Raw, Angle would refuse to compete in a tag team match, pitting him and Chris Masters against Cena and Michaels due to the "you suck" chants from the audience. Then Angle finally agreed to compete if Bischoff silenced the crowd and let him have a special guest referee. Angle would choose Daivari, who favored Angle and Masters throughout the match and ultimately disqualified Cena and Michaels for using a chair, which of course was ignored earlier when it was used by Masters. So that sets the stage. And we've got Daivari being introduced as a special guest referee before the wrestlers come out. And the fans are really into this. There's a loud battle of "Let's go Angle" and "Let's go Cena" chants. And, man, they're off to the races. 3.25 stars. Cena gets the win in 13 minutes and 50 seconds. He retains. And, this is a good match. I don't know that people remember this one as well as maybe they could. I really liked it. It's heavy on storyline. But I dig it. Charles Robinson, a SmackDown referee, eventually comes out and makes the count. And of course, Coach is incredulous with this and says that Robinson has no business doing that. And Styles reminds him, well, they're all sanctioned by WWE. And Angle returns to the back, practically in tears, yelling bullshit. Nice story. Two Hall of Fame performers. What did you think of the match here?
I thought it was excellent. And it was Cena really coming into his own and proving that he belonged on top and proving that he was the guy. But when you look at it, I think that the craziest thing is we're in 2005 here. Kurt Angle is a 7-year veteran at this point, and John is probably a 5-year veteran at this point. So you've got, or a little more, but I'm saying it on the WWE roster for sure. They had both risen so quickly, and it's 7 years. Angle was seen as like the old wily veteran, but yet he was still in many ways brand new. But to me, I think the biggest thing that stood out was Cena hanging with Angle all the way through the match and just kind of letting everybody know, I can hang, I can go, and I deserve to be here.
It was a big match, and the fans were really, really into it. And it's kind of fun to see how these two styles work together. I mean, obviously they have two totally different styles, but what they have in common is that the fans believe in both of them. And you can tell how over Kurt is with the hardcore fans. Even if we're supposed to boo him, they still really, really respect him. And part of me wonders, do you think this is maybe where some of the John Cena sucks stuff comes from when they see him in there with a guy like Kurt Angle, but Cena wins? Do you start to lose some of the hardcore fans and they start to say, oh, this is bullshit?
I think that it was cool to boo Cena and say Cena sucks because of, the quote internet fan or whatever, not liking the meteoric rise of John Cena. So there are those that were going to do that. But the bottom line is they cared about John Cena. Boo him, cheer him, say he sucks, say he's great, do whatever it is you want to do, just make some noise. So that was the beauty of John Cena.
Next up, we've got Eric Bischoff and Teddy Long, a battle of the GMs. Playa. Teddy Long is, of course, the SmackDown general manager. He wants to make you go one-on-one with the Undertaker. And of course, Paul Mercannon is with him. That's a popcorn fart in hindsight. And Eric Bischoff is the GM of Raw. Cole is going to join Coach and Lawler on commentary. Teddy Long is going to be mocking Bischoff's karate early. Palmer, the network guy, is going to distract the referees, unintentionally allowing Bischoff to gain an advantage. And then Bischoff applies a sleeper on Teddy. And then before the match can get too boring, the Boogeyman's intro plays. He approaches Bischoff from behind, slams him, and that leads to Teddy Long scoring the easy win. Long did his celebration dance afterwards, and the network guy applauds. 5 minutes and 18 seconds. I don't know why this is on pay-per-view. Is this just one of those dreaded let me up moments?
Had this match been held in Cody, Wyoming, it would be 14 stars. And that's true.
If it was in Cody, Wyoming?
Yeah. In the old Cody Dome.
Okay.
Yeah. Because everybody knows that Karate Man would kill anybody else. Even though Eric is not inducted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame, he still is Karate Man.
Listen to you.
What? Karate Man, look out for other Karate Man.
All right, listen. I've been looking forward to this next match. I'm saying this on behalf of WWE fans everywhere, Bruce. We fucking hate this SmackDown Raw feud horse shit, and we need you to stop. We don't like it.
Okay.
It's really it.
All right. Thank you.
Their feud started on the homecoming on October 3rd, when Eric Bischoff, who was the Raw general manager, would stop a match involving SmackDown wrestlers by turning the lights out. Of course, in return, Teddy Long would interrupt a Raw match. This all continues. Eventually, there are some injuries. There are some replacements, including, sadly, Eddie Guerrero was replaced by Randy Orton due to his sudden death. But we've got Batista, JBL, Randy Orton, Bobby Lashley, and Rey Mysterio, all representing SmackDown, taking on Shawn Michaels, Kane, Chris Masters, Big Show, and Carlito. And Wade would say the ring introductions took about 15 minutes, and the announcers took swipes at the other brand during the long ring intros. With all the announcers having their mic on, there's plenty of talking. And Wade would say Taz came across as the leader of the five, moving the discussion along. They get plenty of time here. 23 minutes and 28 seconds. Ultimately it comes down to Shawn Michaels versus Randy Orton with about 3.5 minutes left. They both battle until they're both knocked out on the mat. A groggy JBL grabs a chair at ringside, swings at Shawn inside the ring. Shawn ducks, and then Orton, gives Michaels an RKO from behind, and that's it. The SmackDown locker room would then lift up Randy Orton in the air in celebration. SmackDown wins. Wade would call it a good 10-man tag, about what you'd expect, 3.5 stars. But just fundamentally, why should we care about Raw versus SmackDown?
Well, there were people that only watched one or the other. And from an audience standpoint, there were people that preferred SmackDown. There were people that preferred Raw. The brands were separate, and there was a brand loyalty for those that just watched one or the other, and those that watched both had their favorites. Pretty much as simple as that. And since I was on SmackDown was better.
So SmackDown won because you were working on SmackDown and you wanted them to win.
That's right. Me. All me. 100%. It was all me. By myself.
Well, the most memorable moment of the show is as they've got Orton lifted up on their shoulders and they're all celebrating. The Undertaker's music hits and Orton sells it fantastic. He looks panicked. The casket is brought out. Orton looks on in fright with all the SmackDown wrestlers stopping their tracks. A casket stood on its end and then caught on fire and exploded, and out walked the fucking Undertaker.
It's a miracle.
And Michael Cole says, the dead has risen. Taker walked to the ring with a sense of purpose, tossed Orton out, and then he began choke slamming, punching, and kicking everyone out of the ring. Some fled. Undertaker's on the poster for the event, so maybe we should have known, but my goodness, how great was this finish?
Again, it was absolutely beautiful. You know, you go off of the damn casket burning just a month before, and the return, and just, no pun intended, igniting of this rivalry with Randy and Taker, I thought was one of the best and could have gone on for longer than it did.
I love it. Of course, he's here to, we've been covering everything from the 05 shows. So, the backstory with all that's happened with Randy and his dad, and of course, Undertaker. So it's a nice little moment here. So I get why SmackDown would be victorious and we have the big celebration. It really is great TV, but God damn it, I'm so tired of this Raw versus SmackDown stuff. I hate it.
Okay.
We hate it, Bruce. Just sharing. The aftermath is this 5-on-5 Survivor Series match essentially ends the rivalry between the brands. Well, because Survivor Series is over. Bischoff, we know, is going to be fired as the general manager of Raw by Vince McMahon because he lost, which we just are about to cover on 83 Weeks. After Survivor Series, Cena and Kurt Angle continue their feud. Randy Orton and The Undertaker are going to fight each other at Armageddon in a Hell in a Cell match. Triple H is going to move on to a feud with the Big Show. Ric Flair is going to feud with Edge over the Intercontinental Championship. And Chris Benoit is going to continue his best of 7 with Booker T. I think that the takeaway from this is probably, what say you? The return of The Undertaker? Is that the biggest moment of the night?
It's what you were left thinking about without a doubt. And when you look at it in hindsight and look at it after all these years, you kind of go, okay, it looks solid. But actually it was a fun show overall. I mean, everything pretty much delivered. Even Teddy Long and Eric Bischoff delivered. What a great match. At least it was short.
Yes.
You're welcome. But I think that the card overall was a pretty damn good, solid card. And yes, we wanted people to leave there thinking about, holy shit, when Undertaker gets his hands on Randy Orton.
More than solid match with the opener with Benoit and Booker T. I really enjoyed seeing Trish Stratus and a very young Mickie James here and Melina. Really incredible match with Triple H and Ric Flair. Probably the match of the night, in my opinion. Okay. Little segment here with Edge. Kurt Angle and John Cena put on a great match. I don't think it was as good as the Flair Triple H match. The Bischoff Teddy Long thing, as you said, just a bit of a let me up, but man, look at the talent in the main event. Rey Mysterio here was a bona fide superstar. Bobby Lashley had the rocket ship strapped to him. We know JBL had more heat than, your HVAC. Randy Orton and Batista are bona fide main eventers. Of course, we know Shawn Michaels, the best that ever did it, arguably. Kane is one of the most prolific stars in the show's history. There's nobody bigger, literally, than Big Show. But the other two guys I want to talk about a minute, Carlito and Chris Masters. I don't think either one of those guys wound up having the type of WWE career that they probably envisioned or that people imagined for them. Why do you think that is? I mean, they clearly have a big time opportunity here. And just for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like neither one became as big of a star as we all, probably you included, imagined.
Yeah, I think that Carlito had a hell of a run, and Chris, for whatever reason, kind of petered out. And
was it too much too soon in both cases? I don't mean to cut you off, but
possibly
both of the guys are real young, and I just wonder in hindsight, like if they would have came in 5 years later, after they'd been around the loop, they had a little seasoning on them. Maybe they had some grays in their beard. They'd been around the loop a few times. Maybe was it too much too soon?
It might have been. And, it might have been, a lot of things. And I think that Carlito, when you look at Carlito, in my opinion, I thought that Carlito had a pretty damn good career and lived up to a lot of the hype. Could he have been bigger? Possibly. Yes. I think he could have been, but I also think that what Carlito accomplished during the time he was there, he did live up to a lot of that hype, and I think was one hell of a damn good talent. Chris, I think we missed the mark on a little bit, and maybe just it was too much too soon.
Yeah. And listen, I know sometimes we're just in an effort to cover everything as much as we can. And sometimes we don't really convey everything we're trying to say. I want to be clear. I don't think this is talked about enough. Chris Masters is in the main event of Survivor Series. He's 22 years old. 22.
That's a kid.
And so like later when people are like, oh, he did this, he did that. He's fucking 22, y'all. And he's making more money than ever. And he's got a big jacked up dude who's got a lot more attention and a major spotlight than he's ever had before. And he's on the road every night and blah, blah, blah. I just think, and by the way, Carlito, he's only 26. So these guys are at the top of the food chain and they're 22 and 26. So when they stand out, I think it's important to provide the context of, hey man, this guy technically could have still been playing college sports. That's how young he is. I mean, he's 4 years removed from going to the fucking prom, and now he's main eventing Survivor Series. He's had a driver's license for 6 years. It's a lot.
When you put it that way, shit. It's because they were too fucking young, Conrad. Goddamn.
I'm just saying, I know
it's true.
It's important to understand the context that Chris Masters at 22 years old is standing across the ring from JBL and Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio and Batista. And he's tagging with Kane and Shawn Michaels and Big Show. He's 22. It's unbelievable.
He's a child.
I mean,
how old my kids are going to be in February?
I don't know. How old?
They're going to be 22.
Oh, I didn't know that. Legitimately, think about this. When Shawn Michaels started wrestling, Chris Masters was 1. It's pretty remarkable. Shawn has 21 years of wrestling experience. Chris Masters is 22. They're tag partners. Fuck.
Yeah. Well, when you put it like that, fuck.
Just saying. So, hey, can we talk about this Raw versus SmackDown thing? Are you ever going to acquiesce? Are you going to listen to us?
No.
God damn it. Hey, I know that you hate when I do this, but I saw something online the other day that I thought was fucking genius. What if there were stakes to this Raw versus SmackDown thing and it had an implication for something at like Royal Rumble or something? I love when you guys introduced Royal Rumble and the winner gets a title shot. But what if like whoever won something or did well or whatever in this Survivor Series gimmick, they got some sort of advantage for spots in the Royal Rumble?
Like a job.
Okay, fuck. If we're just going to be real, let's do some questions here. I can tell that you're Pat, you need a nap. Chase wants to know, how good was SmackDown in this era? The best of 7 was just the striking gold with King Booker, the rise of Ken Kennedy, Randy and Taker, the stories of Ray continuing to lead to his big win at the Royal Rumble, all contribute to one of my favorite eras in SmackDown history.
You're welcome.
I knew you were going to say you're welcome. I know you very well.
I think, I just look at it, it was different, and it was a concerted effort to try and make it different. The talent to me, just really shined. And Raw was a different type show. It was a little bit more established talent, and it was a different feel. But I do think that hats off 100% to the talent in that one.
Chase wants to know, is this the best Survivor Series of the 2000s? It's my favorite for sure.
Again, going back and watching it, I have to almost agree with you there. And since I haven't gone back and watched, that many more in 2000 yet, I think that this would hold up because from top to bottom, everything was really solid and felt good.
It is interesting. I do want to bring this up, and I know why it was done last. It was a way to bring out the Undertaker and send him home happy. But the next year, you're going to close the show with Batista and King Booker. And then in 2007, you're going to close the show with Batista and the Undertaker. And in 2008, you're going to close the show with John Cena and Chris Jericho. And in 2009, you're going to close the show with John Cena, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. I guess my point is, you rarely saw an elimination match end the pay-per-view. It didn't usually go on last. It didn't in 2010 either. Even though the Nexus was around, it was still a singles match. That was a little bit of a departure for what you guys had been doing. Now, it wasn't from the prior year because it was definitely a team thing. I think back then it was Team Orton versus Team Triple H back in 2004. But this is sort of the last year that the teams would finish it.
Well, I think also, there had been a departure from the teams going back into the 90s. So there was a longer history of not having the teams than there was with the teams. So, that was normal really for us. It just, for those that really remember the teams and go back that far, then that's what they identify Survivor Series with.
Do you prefer the team thing to be the main event? I mean, you did it again, just a handful of years ago. I guess 2014, it was Team Cena versus Team Authority, but it is kind of rare that that's the way you do it with the teams.
It really depends. It really depends on the talent and what the main issues are.
Let's do another question. This one is from Instagram, a wrestling historian. He says, Chris Benoit, Ken Kennedy, and Christian Cage were originally going to be on Team Smackdown, and Shelton Benjamin was going to be on Team Raw instead of Kane. He says this was reported by Dave Meltzer in November 2005 and wants to know if it's true or false. And I can't help but wonder, had I not said that, if he would have answered differently.
Probably not, but keep in mind where you get your information, where the same person reports something 4 days after it happened as if they're reporting this miraculously new thing. So 9 times out of 10, your source is probably wrong. So consider your source.
Tony writes, since Eddie Guerrero was supposed to be on Team Smackdown and Orton took his place due to Eddie's tragic death, what was the plan for Orton at this show since he wasn't booked in the main event? And would the result have been the same with SmackDown winning if Eddie was in Orton's spot? That's a great question, because the way it finished, it felt like, oh, this was the plan all along, but he was a replacement. So it wasn't the plan all along. What was the original plan?
As I said before, there are moments in time where I kind of have a block for whatever reason. And the story beyond Eddie and Batista in October was to continue with Eddie and Batista and to continue to tell that story of the friendship and grow that rivalry a little more. So
Eddie would have screwed Batista somehow here.
I don't know. I really don't. I really and truly don't remember, because I really and truly just kind of have a block it as far as what we were going to do, because it's kind of a traumatic deal that I don't have it. I really don't know, other than when we started the whole Eddie and Batista story, that was to go on for a while.
John Alba says, shout out to John, who's always putting us over. For some reason, I always remember the Dicks hoisting Orton when Taker returns. Where do the Dicks rank in terms of all-time tag teams? Don't you
bottom
do
100.
It. Oh, I thought you were going to say top 5 and I was going to hang up.
No.
How much of the name was a rib?
Well, the one, goddamn, one of them came to us with the name, and it just became go with it, and it was from an OVW deal that they did, and one thing led to another, and before you knew it, you had the dicks on TV.
All right, we'll do one last one and then we'll get out of here. Ray wants to know, why is it that Shawn was always the last one eliminated from traditional Survivor Series matches?
Well, I don't know that to be true. I'd have to go back and do my research. But maybe Shawn just knew how to work them damn elimination matches.
I mean, really, in theory, you're looking for a guy who's going to have good cardio and be able to make everybody look as good as they possibly can, whether he's losing or winning. So Shawn Michaels is probably somebody you want in there most of the time, right?
He's a good candidate for him, without a doubt.
Next week, we're going to be back with you with Armageddon 2005. This is a SmackDown pay-per-view that went down on December 18th from Providence, Rhode Island at the Dunkin' Donuts Center. On top, we've got The Undertaker and Randy Orton in a Hell in a Cell. Big Show will be teaming with Kane to take on Batista and Rey Mysterio. Kid Cash will be in there challenging for the Cruiserweight Championship. Juventud will be defending that championship. We've got a 2-on-1 with Bobby Lashley taking on William Regal and your boy, Paul Burchill. We'll have the fourth match in the best of 7 series for the U.S. title with Benoit and Booker T. We've got Eminem with Melina taking on the Mexicools. Can't wait to beat you up about that one more time. And then we've got John Bradshaw Layfield with Jillian Hall taking on Matt Hardy. What do you think we might talk about next week when we cover Armageddon 2005?
God damn, do I have to watch it?
I'm sorry.
Bradshaw, Matt Hardy. Holy cow. Well, who the hell was writing that shit?
Well, SmackDown, you took all the credit a minute ago, so I'm going to lean towards you.
I must have been off that day.
As a reminder, we're doing a profile piece. I know how much you guys enjoy our profiles. We'll be back on December 11th with Rey Mysterio Jr. December 18th is In Your House number 5. I'm pumped about this one. This was a really good match. Bret Hart and the British Bulldog for the world title in a 21-minute match. Right before it, well, something a little different. Undertaker and King Mabel in a casket match. Then we've got Owen Hart and Diesel. We've also got Hunter Hearst Helmsley working with Henry O. Godwin, Hog Meat, in an Arkansas hog pen match. Hillbilly Jim is the special guest referee. Ahmed Johnson is going to work with Buddy Landell. That's a real thing. And then Marty Jannetty is going to team with Razor Ramon against 1-2-3 Kid and Psycho Sid. I love WWF in 1995, and that's what we're talking about later this month. Don't miss it. It's December 18th. Bruce, as I'm running down the card, you got tickled. What got you?
Old Henry Godwin. I got to see him this week, and it was just so fucking good to see him. Again, he's one of my favorite people just in the whole wide world because he's always got a smile on his face, and he's just a great, great guy.
Man, I'm fired up about what we've got coming here later this month. I hope you guys will join us. You get these shows early and ad free over at adfreeshows.com. Oh, did I leave out Christmas? How about Christmas Day, Bruce?
What the hell?
We're doing a no holds barred watch along.
Well, you know what they always say.
I'm ready.
I have a Merry Christmas and you can have a no holds barred Christmas.
Stay tuned, boys and girls. It's going to be a fun December. We'll be back your way next week with Armageddon 2005 right here on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard.
Rock on. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.